Do I have a motion to approve the August 10th regular meeting minutes?
I do have some corrections that are needed for those.
Did you send those to Hillary?
I do. Do they need to be read into the record?
No, because
I don't think there's,
I've not signed them yet. So she will make the adjustment. What do you think, Alan? Should we read them into record? Or he did notify all of us by email that there were changes that need to be made to the August 10th.
I would say read them into the record. It's not going to take that long, is it, David?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dave.
Sure. August 10th minutes. Under the coffee shop SUP, the motion to close the public hearing was made by Mr. Matheson, seconded by myself. We need to add that that motion was unanimously approved. In the next paragraph, Mrs. Sweeting's motion was to, that the coffee shop would only have coffee beverages and packaged pastries. Our minutes reflect beverages and pastries. Under Town Council meetings time limit, did I steal your thunder?
That's okay. Say it, and then I don't have to do it.
All right. The 9 a.m., the last agenda action item to begin no later than 9 p.m., not a.m. Under COVID discussion, Ms. Sweeting made a motion to issue the state of emergency effective August 11th, and that masks are strongly recommended in town limits for, we need to add in business and then retail restaurants. So we're missing business there. And the last thing on these minutes is under official reports and comments. Under my comments, Mr. Dodson's name is misspelled. It should be D-O-B-S-O-N instead of Dotson. And that's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do we have any other changes or amendments to the minutes?
Yes, there's
Okay.
one more. On August 24th, 2021.
Okay, now you're doing, let's approve August 10th first, since we have those changes. Do we have a motion to approve August 10th minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Albert? Doug? David?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. August 24th, 2021 minutes. We have some changes there as well.
Yes, sir. Doug, do you want to, did you have some?
Go ahead. You're probably
Okay.
going to mention it anyway.
The second sentence of the minutes, the meeting was to, and I'm going to ask for some direction here. The meeting was to discuss COVID and potential protective measures. We've got a typo here that the meeting was to approve resolutions related to Memorial Park Part F project. In the fifth paragraph, the word insensitive should be incentive. That's all. Oh, and that the minutes need to reflect who called the meeting, who was Mrs. Sweeting.
Doug, did you have some changes?
On the last paragraph, it said COVID discussed employee vaccination and weekly COVID testing. Councilmember Matheson made a motion, and Councilmember Matheson made the second. I don't know who made the second, but I can't do both.
I missed that one.
Good pickup. We're on.
If I'm not mistaken, Sue, you made the second on that, did you not?
she made the motion.
Oh, Sue made the
She
motion?
made the motion, and I made the second.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd have to go back to
Any other changes?
remember.
Okay. A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. Albert? David?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Doug? Okay. Meeting minutes are approved. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the regular agenda as stated?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the public comment section, we limit to 3 minutes, and we will hold to that tonight because I know there's a number of people that would like to speak. And keep in mind that we all have our ideas and our thoughts. Some are professional, some are not. Not everybody is right in their own eyes. So be courteous, be kind, and respect one another. Do we have a list, Jennifer? And I will limit this to no more than 3 minutes per individual, not to exceed 1 hour. And then after that hour, we will go through the rest of the agenda following, okay? All righty. And if you would, when you come up to the podium, state your name and address. And okay. All right. Guess we'll start from the top and work down. Mr. Homie Ketchy. Yes, sir. Homer, thanks for coming this evening.
Thank you. I am probably a 40-year permanent seasonal resident. Just recently, I have not attended one of these things in 10 years, and the latest issue of High Country magazine was talking about the parking problem. We have done an awful lot of traveling since I've been retired, and in Europe and in this country, we have seen some beautiful parking decks, if you can call them that. And I think we are missing 2 places in the town that we have not, that I'm not aware that you have considered. One of them is in front of the elementary school, and the other one is the parking lot of the Presbyterian Church. Both these places would lend themselves, in my opinion, from what I've seen, very economical way to build a deck. In the case of the school, I would say maybe a 3-level deck. The lower level would be for school buses, staff, teachers, and if it's big enough, if you cover enough, it would be good for merchants to have a covered parking place. The second level is something I think we should consider, would have electronic charging stations for electric cars. That's becoming something, and apparently the federal government wants to consider us having electric recharging available. We probably could have a number of companies pay us to put in charging stations. I'm talking off the cuff. I have no idea if this is possible. If we put a 2 or 3 parking deck at the school, on top of the top deck, whatever it is, 3rd or 4th or whatever, put solar panels. The solar panels would give us free electricity to charge the school. Or I have recently seen a note from a Chinese company called BYD that is making electric school buses. They look beautiful. the school bus and the staff and the teachers could park underneath, and you're out of the weather. It would make a perfect thing for them. Both of these are controversial, I'm sure. The Presbyterian idea, it's practically designed for a parking deck. You dig up their present level, and you've got a 2-level parking deck, and I'm sure some of the senior citizens at the Presbyterian would like covered parking during inclement weather, which we do have here occasionally. So this was just off the hand, please. I just thought maybe in reading, and I'm sorry, I haven't been involved in this, but I've been to Europe a couple of times, and some of the parking decks you could read a newspaper in. When you got out of the car, they knew you from the United States. They knew I was from North Carolina and probably what I had for breakfast. The digital cameras now are unbelievable. So security would not be a problem, in my opinion, in these parking decks.
Thank you, Mr. Catchy. Thank you. Okay, Catherine, is it Rezick?
Okay, well, I've lived here for about 5 years. My name's Catherine Rezick. I'm at 184 Zetaway.
Okay.
And I'm here to say that health freedoms, I think, are being suppressed. I've been in the health food industry for over 20 years. My husband has as well. He's been to Chinese medicine school. It's about doing no harm. What I'm really here to say is that when people come to our store, we own the store down in Boone. It's a health food store. And when they come in, it's like not one treatment is going to suffice for everybody. They come in for herbs, they come in for all sorts of different things. So with the mask mandate, this has really been that hard seller for me because we see people coming in. We've had people wearing masks before all of this became popular, okay? And I feel so bad for the people that can't wear them because they're the ones that are getting discriminated against. And if people want to wear masks, that's fine. We're not against the mask mandate. I'm not against it. People need to feel comfortable. And I feel like it's just been so politicized that it feels like people are just out to get everybody. And I'm not sure how to tone it down. So any suggestions would be great. But I just feel our industry is the same. We are, how do I want to put this? I don't do public speaking, as you can tell. We're the alternative to the pharmaceutical industry. That's what we stand for. We live in the mountains here, and I don't know, I found out when I moved here, because I love this place so much, that there are herbs that only grow here on the planet. On the planet. These herbs are precious. And it's like we need to get back to putting stuff into our body and making sure our immune systems are actually going to fight off any virus. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care, because there's going to be so many. I don't know if everybody knows that there's 10 to the 30 viruses in the air, 10 to the 30 in the ocean, and 10 to the 30 in water. So I'm just basically saying that, these mandates are just, it seems like, when is the line going to end? And I feel that we just have things that, for me, oh God, I feel like I'm stumbling idiot, sorry. For me, it's about putting the stuff in your body that you know that works well for you. If my sister got the shot, she had a horrible reaction to a different vaccine. But it's still, she has fibromyalgia, she has other conditions. Everybody has something going on, and everybody's different. So I just wanted to kind of put myself out there and just say, hey, you know what? It's about peace and loving and respecting, especially God's country. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. All right, Karen Winstead.
We're going to switch so that.
Okay.
Just
Miss Eagles. You know the drill. Name and address.
And I had way too much coffee. My name is Even Light Eagles, and I live at 612 Ransom Street. And I need, oh, here it is. So when there were first questions about whether the virus was natural or not, anyone who openly questions its origins was promptly labeled a conspiracy theorist or an idiot. That that's not how real science should work, it did. And now its lab-generated origins are generally accepted in the scientific community as not only possible, but rather either probable or true. But what's more important here is the whole time, Dr. Fauci was quite aware of the credibility of the scientific argument that it was lab-created. This is not a conspiracy, it's documented. Though information being released due to through information being released due to FOIA requests and successful lawsuits that have followed the denial of those requests, the truth is slowly but surely coming out. The same is true for Fauci's knowledge of the therapeutic effects of hydroxychloroquine and so many other things we've heard in the official narrative. Dr. Vladimir Salenko is a New York doctor who is quite controversial for his beliefs about the nature of why his highly effective protocols have been ignored, but nonetheless, he has now successfully treated over 7,000 high-risk COVID patients in his own practice with his protocol of hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, zinc, and D3. He has saved countless lives using and teaching his protocol, and thankfully, he has just been nominated for a Nobel Prize for his work with COVID treatments. I say thankfully because now it will be harder for the CDC to discredit him and doctors like him and the life-saving therapies they're trying to promote, like they're doing now with ivermectin. The CDC's official word is that there is no evidence that ivermectin works. However, if you step out of the shadows of the CDC's official narrative for a moment and the nation's top disease expert, you will find there are now over 60 studies showing the efficacy of ivermectin, and there are over 160 studies now showing the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine when used properly. The documents, there was actually a study, I can't name the study right now, but where the government was using, it was a government study, they were using like quadruple the times of what was safe, and they were using after people were sick, and well after, which is when it's not effective. Over 25% of the people in those studies were dying, and they were using that information to show that ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine wasn't working. So if you're interested, I can get that information for you. The documents are giving you, the documents we're giving you, I've got some documents here, include the summary of 67-page scientific paper called Ivermectin for COVID-19, a real-time meta-analysis of 63 studies, and you will find a review of the emerging evidence demonstrating the efficacy of ivermectin in the prophylaxis and treatment of COVID-19. This is a WHO study released a week ago, and in the summary it states, ivermectin should be globally and systematically deployed in the prevention of COVID-19.
Ms. Eagle,
Is it 3 minutes?
it's been 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
Well, there you have it.
Thank you so much.
I know you guys, I know we're all on the same team. I know you guys are, doing your best. I'm not fighting you, but there is other information.
Thank you, Ms. Eagle. Okay. Is it Melissa Tosh? Toshi?
Oh, she was next.
Oh.
Yeah, and we switched positions.
Okay.
I don't have to do this too, it's just the materials you might need based on what I'm about to talk about.
You have 3 minutes. 3 minutes, dear.
Yep, Karen Winstead, 129 Betsy Circle, Todd, North Carolina. I am a 34-year veteran of the pharmaceutical clinical research industry. I'm an auditor, medical writer, an analyst, and I write safety and efficacy reports for the pharma industry. And what I want to talk to you just briefly about is considerations to keep in mind when you're thinking about COVID vaccines. The survival rate right now of COVID is 95 to 99.97%, depending on your age bracket. Yet here we are pushing mandates and pushing vaccines on people. Just recently, the CDC came out and announced that their vaccines, none of these vaccines are actually preventing infection or transmission of the virus. The most that they are actually doing is just maybe minimizing the symptoms and side effects if people become infected. A macroanalysis study of data from Oxford University and Johns Hopkins showed that countries with active vaccination programs have more COVID deaths than those who do not. Countries with a higher percentage of their population vaccinated have more COVID deaths. COVID deaths have increased with vaccination after vaccination programs were implemented. This is alarming, especially when you look at the amount of adverse events and deaths that have been reported to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. I've been very involved with that and have been a safety specialist for years, so I know what I'm talking about here. Currently, worldwide, there's over 650,000 adverse events and 14,000 deaths. Of the deaths, 18% have occurred within 48 hours of vaccination, and 13 have occurred within 24 hours of vaccination. That is what we in the industry call a temporal relationship, which suggests that there is a relationship between the vaccine and the event. Whether it's probable, likely, whatever, that still is being looked at, but that's what we call a heavy safety signal. So it has a very high risk profile. On top of that, we're seeing all of these variants that are developing now, and people are wanting to push these boosters. But what scientists are worried about is it's the actual vaccines that are creating the variants. So if we keep pushing these boosters, we're going to keep experiencing variants. I can't tell you the science about it because I'm limited time-wise. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that it's more of the unvaccinated right now versus the vaccinated that are showing up in the hospitals. Israel has 90% of its population vaccinated. In fact, they rank the top in the world, but they're also in second place as having the most daily infections per capita in the world. So it's got to make you think, what is this connection here? And I am worried about that as a public health official and as a researcher.
Your time.
And I think we really need to keep this in mind when we look at what are we talking about in terms of vaccines.
Time, Ms. Winstead. That's
Okay.
it.
So I have my presentation
Okay.
here.
Thank you.
And I only have 5 copies, so please just take that and please read it.
Okay.
I've done a lot of research. I spent days putting this together to try to inform you because I knew 3 minutes would not be
I
adequate.
know. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Is it, okay, Adam
Zepta, right here.
Zepta.
Zepta.
Very good. Thank you.
Adam Zepta, 232 Robin Lane, Boone. Took a wrong turn somewhere. Now I'm here. So good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Zepta, and I'm a student at Appalachian State University who's had the honor to call this area home. While I typically bother Boone's Town Council about local issues, you have the pleasure of being bothered by me tonight, and I'm very happy to be in Blowing Rock addressing you tonight. On March 15th of 2020, the towns of Beech Mountain, Blowing Rock, Boone, and Seven Devils, in conjunction with Watauga County, declared states of emergency due to the first local positive case of COVID-19. In response to improving case trends at the time, the town of Blowing Rock rescinded its emergency declaration on May 18th of this year. Since then, case trends have reversed, and we find ourselves regressing in our progress battling COVID-19. On August 18th, the Appalachian Regional Healthcare System released a public notice stating that staffing at Watauga Medical Center had reached a, quote, critical level due to a sudden and significant increase of COVID-19 hospitalizations, emphasizing that there are not enough ICU-level trained medical professionals to care for the surge of COVID patients. On September 1st, with the number of active cases and hospitalizations continuing to surge, the system released another public notice urging the community to take action to prevent further spread and protect critical healthcare resources. It is clear that solely imposing an indoor mask mandate, as done by the towns of Boone on August 6th and the town of Blowing Rock on August 24th, is inadequate in protecting our communities. While a significant amount of uncertainty remains, one fact has always remained clear. This virus has not been bound by municipal corporate limits. As such, 548 days ago, our communities embarked on a unified journey with the goal of minimizing viral spread. Unfortunately, as of today, the total number of cases reported in our county since testing began has surpassed 5,500, with 35 individuals succumbing to COVID-19 complications, according to App Healthcare. Now with COVID cases and hospitalizations surging due to viral variants, minimizing viral spread within and between our communities remains our collective goal. However, as the pandemic enters its 18th month, times have changed and so have our priorities. Even as priorities shift in response to the unique circumstances faced by each of our communities, a comprehensive and collaborative emergency response effort must be maintained and remain constant, especially between our two towns. Despite our differences, Boone and Blowing Rock have repeatedly led by example, paving the way for others to follow. Due to the action pursued by our two towns, emergency declarations and masking mandates of some sort are now in effect for over 98% of the county's population. Notably, Beech Mountain is the only municipality which has not yet taken renewed COVID-19 emergency response efforts. As we continue to navigate through this pandemic, the towns of Blowing Rock and Boone should formally establish and expand upon a unified response to COVID-19 which encourages others to follow suit. While I applaud both towns for the actions taken thus far, specifically the public indoor mask mandate and vaccination policies for municipal employees, I also believe more is necessary. Therefore, I respectfully urge Boone and Blowing Rock to explore joint emergency initiatives as permitted by local ordinances, general statutes, with concerns about the burden of enforcement. Am I allowed to almost? Joint initiatives to alleviate some of the burden of enforcement placed on individual police departments. I'll cut my remarks short because it's almost 3 minutes, but I pray that our current surge minimizes soon and we can all return to some sense of normalcy. I hope this ends soon, but until then, I think we need to do more together. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay. Is it Melissa Tausche? How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
I'm Melissa Tausche of 1741 Sunset Drive. I would much rather sing than speak, so I am here because I am angry. Number one, that our commission, and I know you mean well, but would be so callous as in a time when we have intense labor shortages all across the country, that you would callously say a third of our town employees, you would rather see them leave if they don't want to get the vaccine. And I just think, and to lose a valued member like Virginia Powell, I think that is just, there are no words. I find it very callous on your part. We are in a situation, I applaud Even Light, and I don't remember your name, but I have been doing a lot of research. When you can't research treatments for this disease, something is wrong. When publications like the Rolling Stones can throw out a fake story about ivermectin, when the Lancet and esteemed medical journals put out fake stories about hydroxychloroquine, something is wrong. When hospitals say, go home until you get worse and need to be on a ventilator and then come back, we will treat you then, something is wrong. And we have to start looking at prevention, vaccines. There's too much that we don't know about this vaccine yet. My 22-year-old nephew is facing discharge from the military right now because he does not want to take the vaccine, and it is mandated. And it's not an honorable discharge. So there's something wrong with this picture. You've mandated masks. People can get tested, but I don't think it's right to mandate a vaccine. We have absolutely no idea what the long-term effects of this are. There definitely are studies out there that say the vaccine is causing the variants. We are ignoring natural immunity. What about the people that have COVID? So we are absolutely ignoring facts that stare us in the face. Am I time up?
Time's up.
Wow, that went fast. Thank you.
Tyler Branch. How you doing, Tyler? If you would, state your name, address for the record.
Tyler Bryson, and yeah, I'm against these mask mandates also. Okay, I commend Virginia, I commend Albert for standing up. I think it's dead wrong that you guys would make the town employees, some been here 5, 10 years, who knows, maybe longer, force them to make a decision to put something in their body that I don't care about all these numbers, I got them too. Nobody can dispute that this vaccine is not even, or so-called vaccine, it's not even a year old. It was rushed through under Operation Warp Speed, very political. Everybody was like, I don't trust the Trump vaccine, right? Remember Biden, Kamala? I don't trust it. Well, like they were like one of the first to get it, right? So we know it's new. Okay, so the main thing, let me just read a couple things I got here. So I'm not used to getting in front of public either. All right, so first, and I believe the intention is to protect the employees. I believe your hearts are pure. But this is a slippery slope. First you mandate it on the town employees. What's next? Are you going to mandate it on the citizens too? Okay. So some common sense points. Somebody already brought up the numbers. As of 9/4, the total cases were 40,255. Total deaths is 643,858. That's 99.9839 overall survival rate. Okay? It was rushed through. All of them are still under emergency use authorization, which means by the FDA you have the right to refuse. The only one FDA approves was Pfizer, and that version is not even being used here in the United States. That's being used in another country. So everyone has the right to refuse. Let's let people assess their own risk. I'm 53 years old. I know I have a 99.7% survival rate if I get it. I had it in February 2020. I didn't get tested, but I know I had it. I had all the symptoms. So all I'm saying, look, if this vaccine works, then let those that are concerned about it and have higher risk, let them go get it, let them protect themselves, and let the rest of us assess our own risk and choose not to get it. Leave us alone. If it really works, then protect yourself. Why do you have to push it on everybody else?
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you so much. Okay. Lee Rockamora. Know the drill, Lee.
Yep. Lee Rockamora, 300 Laurel Park Road. As a physician and a clinical drug investigator, the valid science of healthcare has been the basis of my medical practice and my clinical trials. Along with internet access has come significant...
Either speak up or take your mask off so they can hear you, if you would.
Okay. Along with internet access has come significant misinformation and unsubstantiated information. Nowhere is this more evident than the information about COVID. The surge of the highly transmissible Delta variant, due primarily to the large unvaccinated population, now accounts for over 99% of infections. How do we best protect ourselves, our families, and our community and reduce transmission should be our main focus. Here are the true facts and from trusted medical sources. The Delta variant is highly transmissible and now accounts for over 99% of new infections. Infections in unvaccinated individuals is 5 times that of those vaccinated. The original strain of COVID infected on average 2.5 people. Delta now infects 5 to 7 people, 2 to 3 times the number. In the study out of Washington State, unvaccinated people were 40 times more likely to be hospitalized than unvaccinated people and were 32 times more likely to die than those vaccinated. Because of the transmissibility of Delta, vaccine efficacy has been reduced from 94% to 66%. Children are not spared the risk of COVID. The week ending September 2nd saw 252,000 cases of children, a 10% increase, and the largest number of childhood cases in a week since the pandemic began. That week, children were 25% of new COVID cases. Since the pandemic, almost 20,000 children have been hospitalized because of COVID. 444 children have died due to COVID. Having had COVID is not preventative. The study showed being infected with COVID and being unvaccinated was associated with a 2.34 times odds of reinfection compared with those being fully vaccinated. Antigen tests are an effective tool to help employers prevent the spread of COVID in the workplace. Antigen tests, when used for screening employees in non-healthcare workplace, can detect current infection before employees enter the workplace or return to work. Antigen tests are especially useful for screening because they can identify the staff with COVID who do not have signs or symptoms and no known exposure to COVID. At least 60% of people are asymptomatic. Antigen tests are now more comfortable and very easy. Symptomatic and asymptomatic individuals have similar viral loads, so they're just as transmissible. Being asymptomatic doesn't protect you. So those without symptoms are just as contagious as people with symptoms. Vaccination is our best tool currently for controlling and ultimately ending the pandemic. Those not vaccinated pose a significant risk to public safety by transmitting COVID to those not vaccinated.
Lee, you hit 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lee. Okay. Debbie Boyd. Deborah Boyd. How are you? Good.
My name is Deborah Boyd. I live in 214 Mockingbird Lane. I am a physician. I just wanted to talk about the vaccine. I don't think anyone here tonight actually believes that this vaccine has a microchip in it or that it can magnetize us. But I know some people are truly concerned about the safety of the vaccines. At this point, 380 million people in the U.S. have received COVID-19 vaccines, starting in mid-December of last year to the current time, and billions have been given the vaccine across the world. This vaccine has been studied more than any other vaccine ever. These vaccines don't contain eggs, preservatives, gelatin, latex, or metals. There are no live viruses in the vaccine, so you cannot get COVID by taking a vaccine. They do not contain fetal or embryonic cells. The vaccines can't alter DNA because it never enters the nucleus of the cell, which is where our DNA is kept. I thought I should address some of the vaccine issues. The numbers show that the COVID-19 vaccines are safe in women and men who are trying to get pregnant. There are no infertility issues. It is also safe in pregnant women, no matter which trimester it's given in, and in women who are nursing. There were early reports of possible Bell's palsy occurring after receiving COVID-19 vaccine. But over time, we now know that Bell's palsy does not occur any more frequently after the vaccine than what you would expect in the general population without vaccination. The same situation was found with Guillain-Barré syndrome. The cases of Guillain-Barré after vaccination occurs at the same frequency as the general unvaccinated population. I have heard concerns over thrombosis with thrombocytopenia. This occurs rarely, but it occurs in women, and women usually younger than 50. This only occurs with J&J, though, the J&J vaccine.
Ms. Boyd.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Terry McGinnis. Good evening. How are you? If you would, state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Terry McInnes. I'm a physician. I went to medical school at Wake Forest down the road. I'm also have a master's in public health, and I'm a preventive medicine specialist. And along with the two other people you just heard, have given thousands of vaccines as volunteers in this county. And I believe that, you know, a lot of this, I just want to quote Dr. Kevin Hytu, who happens to be an infectious disease specialist. He's the president of Wake Forest Baptist, or the Baptist, as we all like to call it, down in Winston. And he just shared with me the other day that currently still 90 to 95% of the people hospitalized right now in Baptist are unvaccinated. So that's who we're seeing. That means there's about 5 to 10% that are vaccinated. And that's some of the people we're trying to protect, because that 5 to 10% tends to be cancer patients, they're immunocompromised, they're renal dialysis patients. The fact is, this virus doesn't care whether you're R or D, it's in the air, it's transmissible, it's communicable. I actually was also a U.S. Air Force flight surgeon. I ran shot lines, and I'll tell you, one thing about being in the military is when you have a whole squadron go down, you have a whole ship go down because of a disease, you got issues because you're not protecting this country. The only thing this council has done is said they didn't mandate vaccines. They said, okay, you can get tested. It's a little nasal swab. It doesn't go back in your brain.
Only the unvaccinated.
And it goes back, it just goes back, and you can go get your test. If you're having symptoms, I don't care if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, you need to go get tested, because we are seeing breakthroughs, and that's why you're beginning to see this discussion of boosters. But anyway, we just need to continue to educate ourselves and understand that this is for protection. I get my dog a rabies shot. I'm trying to prevent rabies in my dog. These are very safe, and they're the most studied, as Debbie said, vaccine that we have had, because everybody around the world is studying it, and they're extremely safe. And I'll continue to give it, and I'll continue to get it. And I just encourage you to not be afraid of this, but think more about your neighbors and try to protect those around you.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts. Okay. I'd like to thank all those that did wish to speak. You know, knowledge is first and foremost for all of us. And I thank you for taking the time and preparing. And I'm sorry, we have to hold it to 3 minutes. Most of the council does not want to be eating breakfast here, which we have done before. So, all right. Moving right along, this next section is a public hearing for Green Hill Estates subdivision. You want to take a recess? Let some people. We are going to take a 10-minute recess for those that would like to take a breather, and then we'll go into the public hearing for Green Hill Estates. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please be seated. We're back in session.
That's why they're trying to ruin your reputation. Don't mess with flight services.
Okay. All right, we are now back in session. We're going to be addressing the public hearing for Green Hill Estate subdivision. Those that would like to speak need to be sworn in. If you would step over to AKA Jennifer/Hillary. Hillary is going to be swearing you in via Zoom. Okay, Hillary, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Let me know when you're ready.
We're ready.
Okay. So place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give to this body in this matter being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Hillary.
Makes you look so.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. She's at the pool. All right, Kevin, lead it off.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first case tonight for your consideration is Special Use Permit 2021-04 for Green Hill Estates subdivision. Herbert Townsend is the applicant. And Mr. Townsend is requesting a special use permit for a 10-lot, single-family subdivision off Green Hill Road in the ETJ. The property is 6.5 acres, Zone RA, residential agricultural, and is located in the WS4 watershed. A new private road off Green Hill Road is being planned with a cul-de-sac that will provide the access to the lots. The property is outside the town limits and will utilize wells and septic systems for the home sites. This property, as you can see, highlighted there, about half and half meadow and forested woods on the top end of it. Each lot, as proposed, is a half acre because it's in the watershed and requires that minimum size. Each lot meets that minimum size requirement and the minimum lot width of 100 feet. Along the road, when it's completed, they'll plant trees or retain trees on average of 30 feet on center along the length of the road. The road will be private. Maintenance of the road will be the responsibility of the homeowners association. There's no real difference in public and private other than the maintenance responsibilities, so it's still built to our public road standards. The land use code has a limit on cul-de-sac roads of 550 feet in length unless there's no other practical alternative. This proposed road is at 653 feet to the center of the cul-de-sac from Green Hill Road. Given the steep topography at the end of the proposed road and the other property not having, or the property owner not having access beyond the subject property to connect to other public or private roads, doesn't appear to be any other practical alternative but to provide a cul-de-sac street at that proposed length of 653 feet to be able to serve all the lots that they have planned. Thank you. So the 500 feet is about right in here. They're proposing to extend it into here to be able to get good access to these two lots here in the back, 5 and 6. As far as stormwater, stormwater is required for the proposed increased runoff from the road. All the details have not been provided yet, and that's typical. They would provide those in the construction drawings, but their engineer, Patrick Warren, is here tonight, and he can speak to that specifics on stormwater. Most of these would be above-ground basins on the edge of the road and would catch a lot of that water that's coming. The land slopes across this way, and then it also slopes off the back. So water that's flowing from these lots will be caught in the road and be detained here and then released down to the ditch along Green Hill Road. And then in planning board, there was some discussion about water coming off these lots, 8 and 9. And so the planning board made a recommendation after the discussion went on about placing a berm at the back side of lots 8 and 9 to catch that water and carry it on down to Green Hill Road. As I mentioned, property being in the ETJ, there's no water and sewer service available. So private wells and septic systems would have to be approved by Watauga County Health Department. So right now, 10 lots are proposed on the preliminary plat, but after the detailed work on septic permits and all those are finalized out, it may be reduced. It may be 8 or 9 lots. It could be 10, but it would not be any more than 10. I mentioned the planning board. We met August 19th. Their recommendation was approval of the subdivision with the following 3 conditions. One, that a berm or ditch be installed along the rear of lots 8 and 9, which has been reflected on the plan. The road length limited to 500 feet. That might be 550. I need to clarify.
500 in the minutes.
It was 500 in the minutes. Okay. And that the final location and number of lots be determined by the septic system evaluation, which that will happen. That is a requirement of the health department. But what's proposed here is still showing at 653 feet to provide access to the back of those lots, or the back of the property for lots 5 and 6. And so that's what Mr. Townsend wants to propose for your consideration. I've included a draft special use permit for your review and the other plans you've seen up here. The road profile, I think, is the next plan, and it's fairly gentle. The very first part when you come off Green Hill Road is about 10%, and then changes off to, 2.5%, pretty consistent grade. So pretty flat. As we call it, mountain flat. That's a pretty flat road for here. That's all I have. I'd be glad to answer questions. I know Patrick Warren's here to answer questions on behalf of the applicant, and as he designed the site as well.
I have a question, Kevin, more of a clarification, I guess. In the actual SUP, item 13 says the outfall pipe leading the storm detention system shall be conveyed to the creek, and NCDOT permanent drainage easement below through an improved stabilized channel of riprap stone ditch. Where's this creek?
That is a typo. That whole paragraph should not be in there.
Okay, thank you.
Who maintains the ditch on Green Hill Road?
DOT. Maybe nobody, but the responsibility lies with DOT. Yes, sir.
Because it's between town and Florida.
And where does it end up on Green Hill Road? Does it turn to the right on Wonderland or what? In other words, where's the water going to?
Eventually, the creek there beside Wonderland that flows across from Wayne Smith's property, and then further up, it goes the other way near Earl Ford's house. Goes into the Yadkin, but
into the what?
Yadkin Basin, down in Thunder Hole, or not Thunder Hole, down into Blackberry. But it eventually all gets to that creek along Wonderland and flows out through Wonderland Woods and down to the golf course. But when you get down to the curve, I think it stays on that side, on the west side of Green Hill Road, and follows along that contour.
And goes to the creek down there.
Yes, eventually all goes down there, yes, sir.
And there's no way that water can.
Now, we've had trouble with complaints from neighbors south of that
on Green Hill about the water coming off of there. How do they propose to slow down that water? Because it must be skipping the ditch for it to be getting down to Green Hill Road.
No, it should go to Green Hill Road.
Where, can you
The
show
wa-
me where then I'm confused about where the creek and the ditch is.
Pull up the ads. So let's leave it right here. So there should be a ditch along this side of Green Hill Road, right here.
Okay.
This water naturally is kind of flowing this way. When we get to this part, it's going off to Tiffin Lane. So it's naturally coming this way, and then in and up, whatever comes here gets in the ditch, and this comes here. So the concern that we heard at the planning board from this neighbor was water coming here. I mean, even in a, Hurricane Fred, it's coming across that field. I mean, that's the best thing you can have to slow down rain is forested land. The next is grass. So even in a situation like that, water's going to go where it's going to go. There's nothing to do about that. What they're required to do is for the impervious of the road, they're required to detain that portion of the road.
Okay.
And then you can go to that site plan. And then, half of that property is going to be draining this way, coming off houses, and it's going to get on this side of the road. There'll be a ditch on this side, right, Patrick? Carry it on down. So the road basically cuts that property in half and reduces the area draining this way. But, when there's houses in here built on these lots and they have gutters, there's going to be water going that way. So the idea was to collect what comes off here and put a berm to catch it and take it down to the ditch.
Okay. And can you show me on that where it goes after that?
You'll have to pull up QRS.
Goes, Green Hill Road runs down here.
Yeah. So it's going to make a turn at Wonderland Trail?
Would you like me to pull it up?
No. Thank you. So you think the planning board said 550 in length? Because that's what the code
I think it's 550. I think it.
Okay, because it's 5.
Because 550 is what the code says.
Right, that's why I was.
It may be
Now, can this developer come back to us and request that we annex this property?
if they want to. If they want to pay for, if they want to do that and then end up, they would have to pay to get services to them. Extend the sewer, extend the water if they needed that. That would be the only reason that they would want services, unless they wanted the town to maintain the road.
Would that increase how many lots are going in there if we give them sewer and water?
No, it's still.
Well, it would if
pretty much
they
set up.
fail a septic system test.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, let's say they don't have enough for 10 lots, septic, I mean. They could come back and ask us to annex them and increase the lots.
No, you really couldn't increase the number of lots. The watershed requires them to be half acre.
Okay.
Some of these are bigger than half acre. I mean, this one is closer to an acre, but you couldn't divide it again because you got to have 100 feet of road frontage. These others, you could not divide this in any other way and get more lots. So that
The other question I had, and this may be for our engineer, is that's 500 feet from Blue Ridge Parkway, and so they're in their view shed. Do they have to mention that to let them know that they're putting this up?
No, there's no requirement.
Those are mine.
Howard?
What, not picking it strong, but was it a misspeak? You said there should be a ditch down that road. Is there or isn't there a ditch?
There is a ditch.
Okay.
But whether it's clean through there and it's adequate, I don't know. But there is a ditch on that side of the road. Because they've got temporarily they've got access. You see this where the riprap is placed?
Yeah.
And there's a culvert there, so there's a ditch here. How it gets on down through there, I'm not familiar with it down through there, but it doesn't cross the road that I'm aware of and get to this side, to the east side of the road.
What you're speaking about now.
Now. And there would be no reason to think it's going to cross later. I mean, the idea is that for this ditch to remain open and for any stormwater to go carry it into the ditch and take it down to the creek.
You got comments, questions?
The only thing are they, can we ask them on the houses that they spread out the water from the roof?
Yes, that's in the special use permit. I believe it's in there, and I'll find that number. It's in 14. Item 14.
You won't be able to see it.
I saw that now.
Do y'all have any questions for the engineers? Or any other questions for Kevin? All right.
Be here if you need me.
Do I have a motion? Is there someone else that would like to speak that were sworn in?
Let Patrick go ahead.
Okay, Patrick.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Kevin. Mayor, council. I'm Patrick Warren, project engineer, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. My mouth gets dry. I'd just like to address the length of the road. The reason, when I did this initial design, I thought aesthetically that the cul-de-sac would look better over the crest of the hill so you don't see it from Greenville Road. And the other reason that I did it was so I can take that impervious area for the cul-de-sac on the back side and disperse it into the woods to the west, rather than all of it coming to Greenville Road. So that's the reason that I put the cul-de-sac where it is. To access, I pushed it back to access lots 5 and 6. To be honest with you, it wasn't until Kevin let me know, I didn't know that the 550-foot rule was in the code. And when I asked Kevin, well, where did that come from? He said, well, it was in the code when I got here. So I really don't understand. As an engineer, I've designed roads that are a mile long that are dead ends. And so I felt like if Fire Chief Graham didn't have an objection to it, he didn't have any comments, that I don't really know why that's in the code. So I think for those two reasons, I would respectfully request that the council consider the road as designed. It doesn't get us any more lots. If we have to cut it back to 550 feet, I'll do a 20-foot, we'll do a shared drive to those two lots. But then when you come down Green Hill, you're going to see this big round piece of pavement on this side of the hill. So that's the reason that it was designed the way it's designed. And I've designed a lot of subdivisions in this area in my 30-year career up here. But all of the water does go down the ditch to Wonderland. There's one last driveway pipe, the owner on the corner, and then it goes down the ditch and goes to the creek and goes under Wonderland Road. Is where all of this water runs up. There are a number of trees on this property that have grown into the ditch, so we're going to have to get in there and probably, we want to leave as many trees as we can along the road there and limb those up. They need to be limbed up because you don't have good sight distance when you pull out. It's a little scary pulling out of there now, actually. But there's probably 3 or 4 of those trees we're going to have to take out because they've grown into the ditch, and so they've decreased the capacity of that. And then there's 3 or 4 driveway pipes down, and then there's a pipe under Craig Forest. And after Craig Forest subdivision, then there's one more driveway pipe. And just looking at it preliminary, I think those pipes will be, they're 18 inch, so they should be okay, but we're going to look at that. I've already spoken to DOT. We will have to file an encroachment if we take out those trees because it is their ditch to maintain. And we may look at putting some riprap in that ditch to slow the water down before it gets off the property. I've also proposed another little stormwater pond here at the bottom. So we're slowing down the water in a lot of different places. And we agree with Kevin's condition about dispersing the water, like from the houses, like on lot number 7, instead of letting that house water come back this way to the southeast, we would take it to the southwest. So we have least impact there. Typically, on a half-acre lot, we're looking at 3,000 to 3,500 square foot houses total. So that means you've got a footprint of probably 1,500 to 2,000. You're going to have a paved driveway. So you're looking at an increase of the houses on there of 10 to 12% increase in impervious area. That's what you're looking at. So, and we will be, we're required to detain the pavement impervious area. So we've got 4 of those little basins that we'll put up to detain the water. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
What if you get a lot that doesn't perk?
Excuse me?
If you get a lot that doesn't perk, or is that lot going to stay, is this plat going to stay just like it looks now and not change any, or?
We don't, actually, the soil scientist, I don't know if it's Aaron or Matt that used to be with the county that worked for Land Resource, they're out there tomorrow. Mr. Townsend signed a contract close to 3 months ago. That's how far out they are. So they will be out there tomorrow. I confirmed that today with Walker, the owner of the company in Asheville. And there may be 10 lots with 3-bedroom houses, or there could be 8 lots with 4-bedroom houses. We don't know until we get the soils reports back.
So the plat could change from what these lots look like? The
road would not change. So those lots would be increased in size and we would lose density. And as Kevin said, if we have water and sewer, it's still the same density. There's no, and we met with Mr. Townsend and I met with Kevin out there, and we kind of ran through some rough numbers to run it from Wonderland up as you're talking $250,000, $300,000 for gravity sewer and for water lines. And it's just not economically feasible at this time. But we anticipate that these houses will be your standard mountain architecture. Mr. Townsend is a home builder in the county. We anticipate that the sales price for these will be $1.2 to $1.5 million in today's market.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have someone else that wished to speak that's been sworn in? Hey.
My name is Ron Swift.
Hey, Ron, thanks for coming.
I just would like to say that I've worked in the surveying business years ago, and I've seen the land, and I know that land up there is, the water runs off that land, and when I left here, when the planning board was here, I left here that night, went up Green Hill Road, and there's 3 places on that road that the gravel was all the way across the pavement on the road. Now, I don't understand why anybody would want to pass this or let this go. I know tomorrow they're going to do it, but do you all want to vote on it tonight to be sure that the land's going to perk? I don't think anybody would want to vote on something like that and know that the land might not perk to start with. But on this, where the land, the upper lots, I asked them here in the planning board why you didn't put curbs up. If the water's gonna run over the other people's land, they should have curbs on the street. Then, when they talk about this water coming down and going down Green Hill, when it gets down to the bottom, what's gonna happen to the golf course when all the water that comes off of Green Hill Road goes down and goes in under the road that goes down? I think there's a lot of problems with it. I'd like for y'all to consider that. And I thank you for your time.
Kevin, I got a question for you. Yes. In town, within the city limits, our streets are required to have curb and guttering, correct?
No.
They are not?
Only if it's over 10% grade.
Only if it's over 10% grade?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can have we have something like this, just ditch line, shoulder, and we have something like this.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
The most recent would be Glenmore at the end of Rocky Knob. And all of Rocky Knob, of course, that's not in town, but very similar. And a point about this is a preliminary, to answer your question, Doug, this is a preliminary plat. The final plat is approved. It will not be more than 10 lots, and they'll build the road to the specs, and then myself, their engineer, will certify it. Myself, Doug with McGill, Public Works, we sign off on the final plat before, so everything has to be done before they can sell lots and before it's recorded. So the preliminary could change. It could be, as we mentioned, 8 or 9 lots, but that's customary. I mean, they do subdivisions all over the county because they have just well and septic, and approve the subdivision. And then if it doesn't hurt, then they have to do something else on how they either combine lots and have less number. But that's very customary.
Mr. Rothwell, because this is ETJ, what can we do as a town council? Because can we tell them to get a stormwater study so that
No.
so we can't do that?
No, I mean, they're doing stormwater. They're meeting the code. The code requires it for the increase for the road, and before he does construction drawings, he'll have to do those plans on stormwater, and they'll be reviewed by our town engineer. And so they're meeting the code.
So so we can put any kind of limit we want on this, like we can in town?
What kind of limit?
Well, I'm just asking you, what legally can we do to protect the citizens down the road from it, as far as water?
I think you're doing it. I think they're meeting what the ordinance requires. I think, I mean, Alan could comment on this a little bit more, but unless you're going to apply it to every other subdivision and make people do it on their own home, I think we don't have it in the ordinance. You can't make someone detain water for a single-family home. It's not required in the ordinance. And unless you change the ordinance, I don't think you can apply that.
And you can't do it for a subdivision?
That's what I mean, yeah, on a subdivision.
Alan?
So there are some stormwater requirements in this conditional use permit.
Oh, no, I saw those.
Paragraph 13.
So that is cleared by our engineer, correct? The stormwater detention system?
Yes. Before they start working, he's done a site plan and identified where stormwater detention would be, and he's done a road profile. Before they start any work, they'll have to do detailed plans, stormwater, all the things that are required to do. And we'll review it. Once it's approved, then they can start working.
Okay.
Good.
What I never understand is, I always hear they're up, they meet code, everything like that. Why are we here? If that's true, why don't we just got the blotter that says approved for everything?
That's a real good question, because most communities approve a 10-lot subdivision, most communities, that's approved by staff. But our code requires it if any subdivision that involves the creation of a public or private road, or that involves the creation of more than 3 lots, requires special use permit, and planning board and town council.
Well, then we might want to modify some of those statements out here.
All
How
right.
many houses are in Craig Forest?
2. I think they're six lots, 8.
It was platted for 7.
7.
Yeah, they're half acre lots.
How many?
7.
7 lots, 2 homes on it.
The others are for sale or vacant or combined or what? Does anybody know?
Well, they can answer that part. They own it.
There are 2 lots and how many?
I have 4 for sale.
2 houses and how many lots?
There's a total of 6 in all.
So are they for sale or did somebody absorb them or what?
They're for sale.
Okay.
So it was platted for 7, but she had to combine 2 lots because it's
Okay.
My lot number 2 was first, so we had to put in a pumping station across the street, which took one of our best lots.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all right. Is Doug sworn?
Yes.
I think he got sworn.
It can be.
You got a question for Doug?
It's just a simple question.
Doug, Albert has a question for you. Thought you'd get out there.
Can you summarize all this for me?
Yes. So when we reviewed the plans the first time, when they were first submitted, showing drainage going to Green Hill Road, one of our comments was you need to look at the stormwater conveyance downstream to make sure it can convey the amount of water. So we're going to require their engineer to look at all the culverts in the ditch down through there to make sure it can carry it. If you'll look at, where's the pointer? If you look at the site plan, right now all this water is sheet flowing across that field and running down to this property out to the point where the ridge line is, to Green Hill Road. When this road is built, if it's approved as proposed at 650 feet, from about this point at that, between those lots, it will all slope down away from Green Hill Road. So the stormwater along the road will all run to the west, to the back of the property. And lots 2 and 3, as they drain to the road, will be carried to the back. So this portion of the site now that's currently sheet flowing to Green Hill Road will run to the back. And they're going to install a berm along the backs of lots 8 and 9 so that when those drain towards Green Hill Road, the water will be captured to carry it to Green Hill Road instead of across the neighboring property. So efforts have been made to make sure that water has a way to convey off the site.
What's your take on curb and gutter on 4321? Are you, there was a mention of doing a curb and gutter on that side.
Curb and gutter would replace the ditch line, but the water along the street, along the lots, would still sheet flow to the street and carry down the street to the back, whether there's a curb or a ditch.
Okay.
It may carry a little faster, a little easier if it's in a curb, but it's not going to change the fact that it carries down to the end of the street from those lots.
So it's not a benefit?
It's not what?
A benefit?
Some people think it looks better, but it's not going to change the way the stormwater flows.
You also get some stormwater filtration with a grass swale instead of curb gutter.
Yeah, the water's going to flow slower in a grass swale than it will in a gutter line.
And you will get 20 to 25% reduction in pollutants with that grass well versus
And the good thing is, as Kevin mentioned about the slope of the road, that section of road is proposed to be sloped about 3%, 2.5%, 3%. So it's not so fast that the water's going to be shooting down through like some streets in town.
Well, who's in, you use the term back. Who's on the other side of the back?
That's to the rear of the property.
Well, who is that? Does anybody know?
If I believe the drainage kind of follows that back of the property.
There's a road there in the back. If you go over there, you can see where it's Swan State Road in there.
Is he sworn in?
All that water from up here is going back, it's going right down towards the road.
If you're not sworn in, go ahead.
So we've reviewed the stormwater along Green Hill Road, looked at the driveway culverts, but not the drainage way in the back that carries down to Wonderland Trail.
You haven't?
No.
Why not?
Because that area is wooded, and it doesn't look like it will be a stormwater problem as Green Hill Road would be. And that's where the primary concerns have been, going back to the planning board meeting.
But if I would buy it and want to put a house there, I'd have a problem.
I didn't say that.
I did. Yes, were you asking me something?
No.
Oh,
We're done. Other comments?
No.
Questions? David?
No, sir.
Sue?
I'm good.
Doug? I'm good. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Nope.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Does anybody else want to please?
No? Sure? Okay. Motion to close? Sue, you make the motion? Did you make?
She did.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. One of you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve SUP number 2021-04 with the modification that the second paragraph of item number 13 is removed.
Okay.
And do you want the,
How about the road?
how about the road line?
Yeah.
Approved as submitted.
Okay.
Page is that?
All right, so we have a motion to approve the SUP as presented
Oh, okay.
by David Harwood. Do we have a second? Good. Any further discussion?
I'd like the road length to 550, which is what the code is. And I think there was an error. The planning board recommended that. I think there might have been a typo error because it's 500 in the minutes, and I think it's supposed to be 550.
So you want this
It's
approved
550.
at 550? Okay. And, all right, any other discussion?
I've looked, the only thing about this that had any concern for me was the length of the road. And so I've asked Mr. Rothrock about our code, where that comes from. I've done quite a bit of research with other municipalities about lengths of dead-end cul-de-sacs. And I've yet to find a reason for why it is the way it is. It doesn't relate to fire hose pressure. It doesn't relate to any kind of emergency services. And most of them, the ones that I looked at, are 500. Some are a little longer, but whoever used the first template kept using it. And so I don't see any reason to implement it other than to send in the code. And sometimes that's a good enough reason in and of itself. but it seems very arbitrary. And as Mr. Warren said, if we move the cul-de-sac back 100 feet, 150 feet, it's not going to change the number of lots. It's not going to change the density. I actually like what Mr. Warren said about putting the cul-de-sac on the other side of the hill. I hadn't thought about that. So I don't see that there's any harm in the length of the road, and that's why I left it in the motion.
Do you know what Boone's is?
I do not.
So you're saying give them the 600 and some odd feet they're requesting, or keep it at 550?
My motion is the SUP as is presented with the striking of the language there in 13, which I think is a typo.
Okay.
So to answer your question directly, leave it at the length as it's proposed.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Albert, how do you vote?
I vote no because I don't think they have any idea of where the water's going on what they turn back, and I really don't think they care.
David?
Yes.
Sue?
No.
Doug?
Yes.
The mayor votes yes.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. This is under regular agenda. 140 Sunset LLC. Mr. Kevin Rothrock.
Busy night. What do you want?
Usually,
Is that the first picture? Okay. Right. This is 140 Sunset Drive, the former Moody Furniture Showroom, not what we call the Moody Building, which is Lovern's, what he did. This is across the street, the old showroom, and the applicant is 140 Sunset LLC. Jay Wilson's here tonight to speak on behalf of the owners. And they're they're requesting a special consideration for parking at their proposed renovation at this site, the former Moody Furniture Showroom. Through a zoning permit application, the owner is planning to keep the lower level as retail space and convert the upstairs to 2 apartments with 2 bedrooms in each. The owner plans to use these apartments for short-term rental, therefore requiring 4 parking spaces according to the land use code. There are 3 existing spaces in front of the building that the applicant plans to remove and use as a courtyard or common area to be used by the tenants and the general public. This would allow the town to gain 2 parallel public spaces in front of the building and prevent cars from pulling across this public sidewalk and avoid backing out into the street, traffic, pedestrians, and all that. The owner is requesting the council support the proposed change in the parking arrangement in front of the building in exchange for a credit for the 3 existing spaces lost towards the land use code parking requirement for the proposed short-term rental use. The owner would still provide 1 new parking space for the short-term rental, I believe, behind the building. I've included for your review a letter from the owner that explains in more detail what I've just explained to you. And then the site plan, there's an aerial of the site right here. Shows kind of in the shadows, and y'all familiar with the site, with the parking spaces out front. And then what they have planned for it from a site plan in that front area, and also their design, what they would like to see, what they would like to complete with the front of the building from what its current condition is today. So that's it, but I know we can speak more to it and explain if you have questions.
So the applicant's proposing that they'll pay for curb and gutter out front?
Yes, ma'am.
The applicant, because there's not really a sidewalk there, it's just sort of,
Well, there is a sidewalk, but it's also got a reduced, it's got a lower curve so that people can pull over it.
So you would-
today. So whether you would determine, and again, we work with Kevin and the town to decide, do we replace the curb and the sidewalk, which, by the way, is very, very new, as you're all aware. Or do we just simply block off the common area and therefore nobody would be able to pull over it anyway? That probably is not my choice.
Do you mind stepping to the microphone so that our people online can hear?
Yeah.
Thank you. No.
if you could just repeat what you said about curb and gutter and the sidewalk, please.
So there is a sidewalk there today, however, it's got a knockdown curb so that people can pull over and access the parking in front of the building. We would work with the town and and Kevin and his group to say, how do we want to replace that and what does that look like? Again, the sidewalk is brand new, so we would need to determine, do we dig up the brand new sidewalk or do we simply block off the common area in the right way, whether it's planters or a wall even? We could think about that, and that's not in our plan today. We had kind of determined that if we replace the curb, then we would be able to put planters and other things to make it a very nice common area there in front of the store.
All right. Mr. Wilson, do you have a written agreement that Mr. Moody gave you between the town and himself as far as how many spaces he got in there?
No, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Rothrock, are you aware of a verbal agreement between Mr. Moody and the town regarding the parking places in front of his business?
I am aware of the minutes from 1981 to 1987 that I found. And I found that probably about 2 years ago and shared it with anyone that asked about it. But so I'm familiar with that. I don't know of any agreement. I had Tammy look to see if we could find anything recorded. I didn't find anything. I think that the language was about 4 spaces in front. Now today, that's not 4 spaces, it's 3. It's like right at 30 feet wide.
And we can demonstrate that pretty easily if you just drop by there on a Saturday. There's 3 cars in the back.
Well, there were 3 trucks there today, so I can tell you. And I think the picture that you've used is old. It's before we did Sunset. Because there is a large. Go down. Yeah,
that's
Google Maps.
Well, because we now have a curb that comes out there, so that 2 spaces is one very large space. And I can tell you how
You mean
many
where the
of
red
Sue's
car
feet-
is, Sue?
Pardon?
Where the red car is?
No, back.
Oh.
Above?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 spaces there.
There's not a line. So I'm wondering if you could get another space in there is what.
You mean
So what is
3 down through there, you're saying?
So what, you're talking here, right here?
No, back.
From
So
the red
there's
car
2
to the white one.
There you go, thank you.
Let me check GIS. Can we do that real quick?
Yeah,
See if it's-
That's where I pulled it.
Oh, it is. It's not that we don't have it.
No.
Okay.
And this has been a safety issue for the town for years, and there was nothing we could do to correct it. And
I'll be honest, it scares me to death. As people back out of there, I mean, you can't see the uphill side at all, and God forbid you're on the downhill side and cars will park, you really can't see anything.
yeah, it's been a concern for us, and I think when we did Sunset, we talked about it.
I got a question. I was over there today and looked at the parking, and the way it's designed, you have to allow for space on either side for the cars to back out. So there's roughly 5 to 7 feet on either side of their building that I think, could you get an increased parking spot by taking out the golf cart
Yes, so this today.
and adding space up above? I don't know. I'm
Well,
not an
I
engineer.
measured it, but I was measuring my own feet, so that told us something. But, so it's 28 of my feet in that one going up to the corner, because we put a curb and gutter out there. And I'm wondering if you couldn't get 3 spaces in there. So I'm just, and I think that's something that the engineer, wherever he went.
If we could get an additional, great. I know that we can get 2.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Spaces are 22 feet. A parallel by code is 22 and not 19. So if we can get it, let's.
And I kind of would like to actually leave the golf cart thing because we're having a problem with the streets around town where you can't see, there's no view when you get to them, you know. At least that gives you some view looking uphill, you know. Okay.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, I think that's up to engineer, if you can get 3 in there. I think what they're offering is very kind.
Are you going to be making a presentation? I don't want to get out of line here.
We don't have anything prepared beyond what we have proposed to the town, and again, we feel like that the front parking needs to go away for our benefit and for the town's benefit. We feel like it's just not viable parking, to be honest, from our perspective. We also feel like that, the town spent a lot of money getting retail to go down Sunset. We feel like that this makes it a much more viable retail space on the bottom floor, and we can make it a very attractive rental space on the top floor as well, which will do nothing more than encourage activity down Sunset as well.
Do you have a particular are you definitively going to be making this 2 short-term rentals and retail on the bottom?
We are definitely going to have short-term rental on the top, and we are going to have retail on the bottom. As to whether we make it 2 units or 1 larger unit, we've not made that decision completely at this point.
But downstairs, the retail.
The retail is 1 space downstairs, approximately 2,500 square feet total, and today it's wide open space. We will probably wall off a storage area for the retail space down below, along with the bathroom, probably enlarging the one that exists currently. Upstairs, we will either have a wall going straight down the middle with 2 two-bedroom apartments on either side, or we will do a larger 1 unit with possibly 2 to 3 bedrooms in it, depending on how we look at it from there. So that's where we'll be. Additionally, we will be, in all likelihood, we will be required to square foot of the building.
Yeah. You can do anything then. Kevin, are there existing parking credits for this property?
It just, building's 5,000 square feet. They have 3 parking spaces. That's it. That's what they have. They're not required, because it's retail downstairs, and they're going to retail, they're not required to provide any addition. And they're losing 3, but then in the area, there's going to be 2. They're saying they're going to provide 1 in the back for tenants. Upstairs, for the short-term rental, as I mentioned, they're required to provide parking for that. What they're asking for is in exchange for this deal, can they be relieved of 3 of those spaces that would be otherwise required?
I ran through some numbers, and I don't profess this to be correct because I don't have a firm handle on the square footage or your change of use or a lot of things. But I'm coming up with somewhere around 10 spaces, 4 for upstairs, and then another 6 for retail based on 400 square feet per space. Am I misguided, Kevin?
They're not required, only time that you're required to provide new parking. Let me get up here. Only time you're required to provide new parking is when on an addition or a new building, or if you're making a change to 2 use categories in downtown. Restaurant with 12 or more seats, or short-term rental. If you're going retail to retail, office to retail, a house, or a residential to retail, you're not required to provide any additional parking, whether you have any or not. That's what our code says for downtown.
All right, thanks for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
So here's my issue is that I feel like we've got the cart before the horse. I commend you on this creative solution, and I actually like it very much, but usually we're talking about parking in conjunction with the development. I feel like we're talking about parking before we have an SUP before us for this
They're
development.
not coming for us.
They're not required.
Zoning permit, they don't need anything.
I'm saying, I don't have this parking, I don't have a project to compare this parking use for. You know, because when you come with that to the town council, we're going to be looking at change of use. We're going to be looking at open space, density, short-term rentals, a lot of things that I think affect parking. And I feel like I'd like to compare the development with the parking, any solution or proposal you have for parking.
So let me clarify.
If you would step up to the microphone.
Yes. So we are not anticipating changing the footprint of the building really in any way as it stands today. The only change we're making to the exterior of that building in the front is simply changing the parking to a common area, which is a very simple change in my mind. It doesn't have huge implications beyond the fact that people will not be pulling across the sidewalk any longer, and you will have two parallel spaces there. Additionally, we will look at putting parking in the back alley for the retail tenant or for our short-term rentals to look there, and there's room in the back. It's a very similar space to what's in the front, and so there are two spaces available back there as well. And that's the extent of what we're looking at. And worst case, which is what we've outlined in our proposal, which is the two short-term rental spaces with 2 bedrooms apiece. So that is 4 parking spaces. So that is the most that we would be required to do, and it's the most we're capable of doing on that floor. So we feel like we've outlined for the council the worst-case scenario in what we've outlined. So therefore, we felt like we had given you enough information. If there are other things you'd like to see from us, we're happy to work with you to get those. But again, what we've done is outlined what we consider to be the worst-case scenario as far as how we would use this building. And again, if we were to go retail, which we're not on the top floor, again, it would not be a change of use, as Kevin's outlined already. Considering Mr. Moody used it as a retail space.
Right, a short-term rental would be.
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Council?
I'll make a motion that we accept their request as outlined, and that you can see whether you can get 2 to 3 spaces in there with leaving the golf cart area in front, that's in front of Sun Center Barn.
Right, one, the alleyway that goes back, they know where.
Okay, we have a motion. Albert seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to my motion. I just, this has been a safety issue for a long time. It's unsightly. I think one of the things we're trying to do is move retail down Sunset, and I just think this is a great way to start.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, again, thank you for explaining it to me. I understand it better. Thank you, Kevin, for clarifying that.
You're welcome. Albert, how do you vote?
Yay.
David?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And Doug?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you for the solution.
Anybody want to take a break before we go forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 or so, yeah.
13.5 minutes.
It doesn't take that long.
Is this a potty break?
session. Moving right along, got a report on, an update on the COVID situation, vaccinations, and going to let Shane move forward with this, and then afterwards, if council would like to make any additions or comments or whatever, we'll move from there. So, Mr. Fox.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been 1 week since our last COVID update, so just a reminder for all those that may be watching for the first time, or just a clarification of some dates. Current state of emergency that we're under, we adopted August 24th. Sorry, my bad, wrong one. So current one provides a mask mandate that went into effect the end of August and provided violations effective September 10th, which was this past Friday. Does call for a potential Class 2 misdemeanor to be charged for someone that is a repeat violator. And Chief Miller spoke to you all now 2 weeks ago regarding that. We did put some things into place from a response standpoint. I think they worked quite well. Went through Labor Day weekend this past week with very little issues, I believe. We did provide some traffic signals on 321, similar to Boone and Wilkesboro and others that you've seen on our main thoroughfare, north and south lanes, or both north and south incoming, allowing folks to be aware of the mask mandate within the town limits. Sandwich boards through assistance with the chamber, uniform messaging and signage, again, that was passed out to business owners. I think most every single business, in my opinion, from my observation, has put those signs into place. Really almost no issues. We're still very, very fortunate to only have one true issue that I'm aware of to date, and that was handled very quickly. Update in the last 7 days, Watauga County is now at 5,641 cases. That's up 199 from last week. 89 active cases as of today versus 93 last week, and 66 actively monitoring versus 143 last week. Appalachian Regional Health Care, the Boone campus has 22 patients as of this afternoon around 5 o'clock, and that's up 2 from 20 last week. And we're still at approximately 65% of our employees unvaccinated, which accounts for 24.
No, you have 60-something vaccinated.
60-something vaccinated. Yes. Sorry. And 24, that equates to 24 full-time unvaccinated out of our 67 employees. Our incentive program did end on 9/7. That was extended for an additional 2 weeks later than what we had originally had allowed for. And then last week at this time, we had the discussion of putting in the mandatory either vaccine testing or potential termination or resignation of the position. So that's now a week into place. So be more than happy to answer any questions and open the floor up for any discussions of any sorts, anything I may be able to ask or answer.
How's the setup for testing going?
So setup for testing has not started yet. So we've worked with the health department. I've worked with the health department, I should say, spoken with them about when training can take place and the time frame for that. We've had a little bit of a hiccup in trying to find the right time. We now have determined that Mondays and Wednesdays, probably from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., seem to be the times in which we can cover the majority, if not all, of our staff while they're within shift change, et cetera. So we're moving towards implementing that.
Albert?
Well, Shane, it's been my experience in life to observe all of us humans are rational animals. And when we get faced with some problems and we get together, we usually come up with some rational solutions. My question of you is, have you or department heads spoken, sat down and listened to the reasons some people resist both vaccinations and tests that are employed by the town of Blowing Rock? And have you informed them about testing and educate them about the coronavirus, COVID virus, and has that been done? And then also, I really think the word no sometimes means coming from people that they want education.
Let me try to answer maybe, and let me know if I'm not answering the question. So, early on when the vaccine first came out, we did I believe, a good job throughout health in educating our employees. This is the February, March, April timeframe. That's when we began receiving the vaccination. We participated in the mass vaccination efforts, and so emails and pamphlets and things of that nature were sent to the employees, and I think that was a pretty consistent effort with what was being shared with the county and with the town of Boone and ASU. We were all kind of sharing the similar messages of trying to get the word out about the vaccine, and we had a tremendous success right off the bat within the first couple weeks of the first large mass vaccination efforts over at the new rec center. And I believe close to half of our overall staff, maybe a little bit more of our staff, received the vaccine then. Since that time, we've had more vaccinations that have taken place. Most of them happened after we put in the incentive program. I think we've had 8 since that program began. Now that's come to an end. Throughout this time, we've had department heads, all of our department heads have received the vaccination. I don't mind sharing that. And I think all of our department heads, and most of them are here tonight, have always encouraged their employees to receive the vaccination. And it's an ongoing basis. It's an ongoing conversation that they've had. It's still ongoing. It's not ended. So that conversation has been had with those department heads. I myself have had that conversation with a number of employees who have asked for advice or asked for suggestions or asked for stories or things of that nature. Since last Tuesday, I've had that conversation with many employees, similar conversations that we've had previously about the vaccination. Some have been on the fence, some are remaining on the fence within that. I think some are steadfast in not receiving it, I think again, to be fairly typical within just the normal percentages of society as well. But conversations have been ongoing throughout this time, and they will continue to be ongoing, as our employees ask questions and as we, have opportunities to do so. But our department heads have done a tremendous job, I think, in trying to have those conversations, build trust, that type of et cetera. So. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Do you feel that, has there been a hardening or a softening of opinions?
I don't think the opinions of the vaccination have necessarily changed in the last week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I don't believe so. I think there's still folks that are remaining on the fence. They still have their reasons. In the last week, I've had an opportunity to speak to 16, 18, 20 employees that are unvaccinated, and not asking for reasonings, but just listening to them and hearing them out of maybe why. Not a single one of them stated that they didn't believe that the virus is real. They all believe the virus is real, but each has their reasoning for not receiving it as of today. I do think there's a number of those 24 that are currently on the fence and receiving it, and I don't know an exact number within that, but there are a number of them that are out there that are right now trying to determine what to do.
Okay.
Council, just food for thought. And this is a question that's been raised to me. And one individual asked, when do you stop this mandate? Is it when 70% of the employees are vaccinated or 75%? We all know that 100% of anything is almost impossible, okay? I would ask the council establish a guideline that states, hey, when we reach 75 or 70% of the employees vaccinated, that this mandate will be tabled. Also, I would request the council establish a 2-week additional grace period, okay, moving forward, for our employees. I guess in the hopes that those that are on the fence will say, okay, maybe we need to get off this fence, okay? So establish a 2-week additional grace period and allow our town manager, who is really, that is his responsibility to maintain our employees, okay? And to make sure all of our employees remain safe. Let him report via email to us weekly for the next 2 weeks on how many additional people have received the vaccine. It's just a thought, guys. I'm throwing it out there, okay?
I did talk to Jennifer Green, the health director, about that question, the first one you asked, about removal of restrictions, and she said it's based on data.
It's based on what? I'm sorry.
Data.
Data, okay.
And that you can't predict it today. And she said the change will depend on hospitalization numbers, the levels of transmission and infection rate. And she said no way to predict until we see the data. So I think us making a recommendation, we can't really do that yet. I think, we can call meetings if we think it's going down and it's at a point. I also asked her about the 70% because that has been flip-flopping in the literature because of the Delta. And she said, Watauga County needs to get the vaccination rate to at least 70%, although some researchers believe with the contagiousness of this Delta virus that the percent rate might need to be a little bit higher. So I think,
I'm just looking for a guideline. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I asked her that, and I think basically she said, Sue, we can't give you a guideline until we see the data.
Nobody knows. I know.
So, but she did say that the best way to beat this is to be vaccinated and to wear masks. That was her recommendation. I think, I don't know that giving the employees another 2 weeks, they've had over 30 days, they've had incentives, and the testing protects the 65% that are vaccinated. They may decide that the testing is not that difficult. I think Mr. Fox and I talked about that allowing, and you got approval through Jennifer, is allowing the employee themselves to test with me, with whoever's standing there. And you just have to make sure, depending on the test, sometimes you have to circle 5 times, but you can do it in the front of the narrow. So it's not something that, so they can do it themselves. And they may go, well, that wasn't a big deal. So I think that's what may help them get off the fence. ASU has just enacted the unvaccinated are going to have weekly testing, and if they don't, the recommendation is that they go virtual. We can't do that. That's sort of impossible with what we're doing. Governor Cooper has enacted September 1st that if you're unvaccinated, you have weekly testing, and that there are sanctions that can lead to dismissal if you don't choose to do it. That's just been recent. So I think, Delta Airlines added $200 a month for health insurance, I think, for the unvaccinated. So, I love the incentive program. I thought that was a great deal, but it wasn't. It didn't have the outcome that I had hoped for.
I do think that it behoove us, though.
Pardon?
It would behoove us to look at a grace period. I mean, our employees know that we want the best for them. The town knows we want the best for them. And I'm just feeling like a little more soft pedal approach, because ultimately they know, okay? But maybe it will allow those that are on the fence to say, I'm going to make that decision on my own. So I will.
I respect you.
I will. Shut up.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you. I've been here 2 years, and the last week was the toughest of those 2 years. And the last thing I want to see happen is to lose an employee either from COVID or due to termination. It would sadden me deeply. But I wonder at what point should personal freedom yield to the common good? And presently, 1 in every 545 Americans are killed by COVID-19. But yet we have a substantial part of our public that continues to assert their own individual liberties over the common good. I don't know where that number has to get before we realize the common good. Is it 1 in 100? Is it 1 in 10 before everybody gets the idea? This thing is killing 2,000 people a week, 60,000 new infections each week. 99% of COVID deaths are from people that did not get vaccinated. So it is my opinion that shots save lives. This week we remembered 9/11, a 20-year anniversary, and I remember that 20 years ago when the country really came together and was united over the horrific deaths of 3,000 people. But yet we can't seem to get united when we're faced with 700,000 dying Americans from this virus. The Bill of Rights was created to ensure personal liberties. However, those freedoms are not limitless. We have speed limits. You can't yell fire in a theater. So I'm all about self-peddling it, but we've pleaded, we've asked, we've requested, we've provided incentives, and at the end of the day, this council's main priority is to provide the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And we cannot do that without a police force. We cannot do that without a fire department. We have some very low vaccinated departments in our town. And an infected individual mingling with unvaccinated people creates a 14-day waiting period. Am I correct?
If they don't show symptoms, they can go to 10, but
10. We're already having some of those issues in some of our departments where other employees are having to step up, it's changing shifts, taking extra hours. I can only imagine what would happen if we lost 5 policemen, if we've lost 5 public works individuals. So, what I would like to propose, Mr. Mayor, is something along the lines that you're alluding to, is instead of immediate termination because someone does not get vaccinated or tested, take that 2 weeks, think it over. If they get vaccinated or tested and there's a negative result, they can return to work. And they can start getting their pay again. But at the end of those 2 weeks, if they haven't been vaccinated and they haven't been tested, then I would invite them to look for other employment. Because I need, as a council member, to protect the services that this town provides to its citizens.
Why could you not consider something such as, right now, we pay, if an employee gets sick with COVID, we pay for their time out, do we not?
No.
We
So
stopped
if they are vaccinated, we pay for the time. If they're unvaccinated, they utilize their own.
So
sick
now
time.
they utilize their own. Okay.
That's in place.
That's in place.
If they're unvaccinated.
If they're unvaccinated.
I'm not talking about taking away benefits for those 2 weeks. I'm talking about this unpaid leave for those 2 weeks.
Okay, so we have 18 employees. How many?
24.
24 employees, and all of a sudden, they take 2 weeks off.
Well, it may not be all of them, because some of them may choose to get tested. You know, it's their choice if they want to be vaccinated. I respect that. But we've got to protect the 65%, and so that's where we're asking for the week.
All I'm saying is be careful.
Well,
Okay.
and the other thing is that if there's a work shortage, and this is what they've been doing with the nurses, if they're asymptomatic, that they can come to work with a mask on if they're asymptomatic. So that's what they've been doing with the nurses.
I know, but that's kind
If
of
they
going
test
against.
positive and they're asymptomatic, they're letting them work.
That's going against the grain, though. I mean, that's.
Well, that's what Governor Cooper did, and that's what Appalachian is actually doing that. So, I mean, because because they need the job,
Yeah.
or they need the worker. So if they're asymptomatic, you're not going to send them to quarantine. They make them wear a mask. So that is another option that we could use. But we don't know that all 24 are going to walk out. It may be that some of them are going to be tested. And they may tell the other ones, you know, the test wasn't so bad. So, I mean,
Okay. So how do y'all want to move forward? Leave it as is? What do you want to do, Doug?
I want to give my opinions.
Okay.
We all got some, so, you know, I'd like to just kind of throw mine out there too, you know. I agree a lot with everything David says and with Sue it says, and we're trying to start a policy that's the same as ASU and Boone. I'd like to just throw out there that I do agree that while we're setting up and establishing testing here, I would like to do the grace period. But at the end of the grace period, they come in with a test negative, or they know what the result is, and we don't have to have another meeting on this. I mean, it's decided, you know. This
is handled by Shane.
I would like I would like to personally, and you know, what these opinions are, you know, my granddaughter, like Sue said, when she was tested, she works here in town at a restaurant, and somebody in there had it, and so they were asked to be tested. They let her test herself. So she went over to the county to get tested, and they do let you test yourself. And a lot of them, I think that will help them knowing that they will be able to do it themselves. I mean, they don't have to worry about somebody going to ram it up their head and all that. But I'd also like to have the testing open to all. And I say that because I could, and I'll say this personally, if Doug Matheson went to the Luke Combs concert, you know, nothing against the Luke Combs concert, I would like to know in a few days later if I had been exposed, and even though I've been vaccinated, I would like to be tested for it. You know, so I would like to have it open to anybody that works for the town that wants to have a test if they've been put in a situation like that they can go and get that test.
so whether they're asymptomatic or symptomatic.
Either or.
So symptomatic workers should not be allowed into the building through their supervisor. Because until you get a negative COVID test, you don't know whether they have COVID. So they need to go to Health Department,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So,
But I would add, so current, just a few things. So currently, and this has been in place since the beginning of COVID, so just from everyone's clarification, all supervisors have been aware since last, April and May that of what to be looking for, symptoms, et cetera, that type of thing. So employees come in, complain of something, don't quite look right, that type of thing. Obviously, questions are being asked. Employees obviously being aware of that too. We made that pretty clear early on that could be means for dismissal if they were to not follow the protocols with symptomatic, having symptoms of whatever the case may be. So that is out there for that to be. I believe what Doug is saying. Some members of our employees that are vaccinated have asked me that if it would be possible, if we're doing Monday mornings, from 6 to 8, if there could be a few extra tests that are available each Monday for them if they were to be able to come in and just maybe have a headache, or maybe they just have sinuses. The concern that I hear most often here is from employees that are fully vaccinated, and they're very, very sensitive and mindful of symptoms and oversensitive at times. And do I go and do I wait at the health department at 8:30 because I have a headache or that type of thing, or do I come on into work? And so I think from what Doug's saying, we had not discussed this, but if we would have that available here, I think that would be a very beneficial thing for them to do. And they would obviously leave, and if it was positive, they would.
can they get it anywhere else?
Well, they can. I mean, absolutely. It's a
Because your issue is
convenience
going to
thing.
be, you've got 2-hour window, correct? On Monday and 2 hours on Wednesday. And you're asking to have 12 people tested if they agree. So the test, which test are you using?
It's the Bionax, the 15-minute
So
rapid
it's
test.
15 minutes. So 12 times 15 is 180. You're only allowing 2 hours. So you're already over for whoever is doing your testing.
I believe the results are 15 minutes. I don't think the test that itself takes that long, does it?
The results take 15 minutes on that test to read, and that doesn't include putting the little Q-tip in and putting reagents in. So, you're not even going to be able to do 12 employees in 2 hours. I mean, if everybody would come. So, is the health department going to provide the personnel?
No, and I don't want to. You perform the test, so I don't want to argue with that. I know Boone is testing about 30-some employees in the same 2-hour window, and I'm not sure. I'll have to find out the number of people they're using to do that, so I can do that to see what we need. If we need to change hours or do things, I simply was stating the convenience factor may be beneficial if we're truly looking at making sure that we're protected.
Yeah, I'd be curious, because I don't think one person can do it. Even, if they're self-testing, that's not the issue, but you got to write their name on the thing because you're going to have to report and you're going to have to do all that. So I think if your expectation may be 3 people doing, and then you've got to have that equipment, so.
I would fully support more testing.
Yes.
I mean, anything that protects our services, I am behind. I don't see any downside to that.
It's the Boone who are they using to do their testing? The town of Boone.
They're using their fire department.
So the fire department, okay.
And difference from our fire department to their fire department is they have obviously more personnel that's on duty. We're limited here in our personnel that's on duty at any given time. We never have more than 2 individuals at Station 1 and normally 2 individuals at Station 1 and 1 at Station 2 and 1 at Station 3.
Because we're smaller.
Because we're much smaller than them. So that's where our logistical issue has come in, is making sure we have the right number of personnel to cover the medical needs of the community as well.
Will the health department provide personnel? Would they help us?
They have suggested that we reach out to maybe retired nurses or nurses that are willing to volunteer their services, or even potentially pay those individuals to do so within that. They're limited. They're in need of their staff, is what I've been told.
Yes, I understand that. I think the goal is definitely testing the workers that are here that are unvaccinated. I think that needs to be number 1 priority. the asymptomatic or people that are worried. If they're students, they can go to ASU and sign up online. And then there's other places to go. As long as they have health insurance, Boone Drug is taking that, and it's free to the employee. The issue is, if your priority is protecting the 65%, and you have 1 or 2 retired nurses, that's about all 12 can do, so, per day. Now, we haven't done it. You might want to try it and see what happens, but I think one person doing a 15-minute test, 12 people, is going to be over 2 hours. But it could be that, you can get more retired nurses. I will get people that I could find, or physicians, but each one of them has to have their own setup, because if you've got a 15-minute going and you got another one over here, so they're going to have to protect themselves with screens and the PPE, just FYI.
Comments, guys? Did you want to, I'm sorry, Doug, go ahead.
I'll put mine in a form of a motion.
Okay.
Can you word the motion, please?
Okay. While the testing is being set up and established, we do a 2-week grace period, because we haven't even got it set up yet. That we do a 2-week grace period. We know at the end you need to come in with a negative test at the end of 2 weeks, or vaccination, or what we had talked about. I would also like for it to be open to all employees of the town.
Asymptomatic?
With the exception of what you had spoke of, that needs to actually be tested by the county.
And council.
That means us.
If we wanted to, yeah. Because we're considered employees. If we wanted to be tested, we can be tested.
But it needs to be asymptomatic.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I didn't hear in that motion penalty.
Let him finish.
Oh, I thought you finished, I'm sorry.
And add in what Sue had said there about asymptomatic. And at the end of that time, it will go back to the mandate that we had proposed.
After 2 weeks.
After a 2-week grace period.
Well, would the 24 be in the 2-week period you're talking about?
They're not being
without pay?
No, that was him.
No, they're being paid.
Will be paid.
They will be paid, yeah.
So that's, yeah.
When does that start, Doug?
But that's my motion.
You want to make it, when do you want it to begin? As of
Monday?
Monday? Friday?
Yes.
What?
Well, today's Tuesday, so you're making the 2 weeks start Monday or Friday or today?
Let's start the 2 weeks Friday.
This coming Friday. Okay. And
Wait.
yes.
When can they get the first test?
We don't know yet.
Well, they can go get it right now at our cost.
Walmart sells them.
But we don't have it set up yet, as far as us doing the testing.
So are you recommending testing doesn't get started?
I'm just thinking that.
No, I'm hoping testing to get started as soon as possible.
So what's the grace period?
Is that the 19th?
2 weeks.
For what?
Friday.
17th.
From.
I don't know what I'm saying.
And I'm a little confused, and I'm not trying to pick on you.
I'm confused, Doug. You want to start Friday, but we can't start testing till Monday.
Well, we don't know if we can start testing as soon as
I guess
town manager says we can start testing.
the point Doug's making is People can go ahead and start getting tested, but they've got a 2-week grace period to think about it, on whether to get tested or take the vaccine.
Well, when does the 2-week start?
The 17th, Friday.
Friday.
That's what Doug's proposed.
And at the end of that, we don't have to meet. We know what happens. And
Shane Fox will add to it.
Right.
Shane Fox
And
will
it will be in
follow up.
our town manager's hands at the end of 2 weeks.
So you're not using the terminology terminate at all?
No, that was part of the mandate that we had already passed. What I'm doing is asking for a 2-week grace period on that while testing and is being set up.
So you're doing an addendum to what we have?
Right, I'm just adding, really, it's just adding a grace period, and at the end of that 2 weeks, it's in our town manager's hands.
To do what?
If they haven't tested or vaccinated.
To use his judgment to do what he feels is right.
Well, and then what happens? Do they get terminated? Or
Right,
does,
is that not what the mandate is
That's not our
now?
job to terminate anybody. That is the town
I think
manager's
it's
job.
just clarity. I was just trying to understand the motion.
But listen to what Charlie just said.
That is the town manager's job, not ours.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah,
It's our job to set policy,
that's correct.
and this is our policy,
You're right.
okay? So let's clear that up about the manager's responsibility and the council's responsibility.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Okay?
But we used the term terminate. That gentleman right there by statute is charged with hiring and firing.
Okay.
That's where I get mixed up.
So we have a motion that says, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
I won't talk about it. I want to know.
Well, let's get a second on the motion and then discuss it the way we're supposed to.
Right, we hadn't even got a second on the motion yet.
Well, I'll second the motion.
All right.
Okay, I got a second. Now, Albert, discussion.
I want to address the statute that I read, and there may be other parts of the statute because a little knowledge is always dangerous. I read a statute that says in our form of government, which is council manager, we hire the manager, we fire the manager, but the manager is in charge of hiring and firing.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. The motion was while testing is being established, Doug has made a motion 2-week grace period starting Friday, September 17th. Open, once testing does occur, it's open to all employees and council that are asymptomatic. Is that correct?
Asymptomatic.
Okay, thank you. So, any further discussion? Albert, how do you vote?
Well, now, is that the motion? I mean,
That was the motion that Doug made, yes, sir. That you seconded.
I thought, Doug, we were talking a little bit about moving the possibility of termination over here.
No, it does move to him. It is his responsibility, guys.
I don't think it was ever not his responsibility.
No.
I think I understood that it was him, not us. We are setting the policy that says what the guidelines are for the employees.
Well, I think if you poll a lot of people been calling me, they didn't get that impression.
Okay. It is the town manager's responsibility, as David said and others we all know, to hire and fire. The town manager reports to us, but we rely on him to make the decisions he feels is best suited for the town, citizens, and the employees. That's why we employed him. Okay?
So simple terms, General Statute 160A, 147 authorizes you to hire me to carry out your policies. If I do not, then you have the ability to terminate me. 160A-148 allows for me the authorization to hire and fire employees based on, in our situation, our current codes and our policies that we have in place. That's the hierarchy within that.
And so at the end of 2 weeks, what am I to expect? Your report, your
Yes.
contact with us?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry. After 2 weeks, what?
I want to know what's going to happen at the end of 2 weeks, because I don't have this movie every 2 weeks.
He will notify all of us in the 2 weeks how many people have been vaccinated, how the testing's progressing, and those that have been, showed up for testing. How's that sound?
And what if they haven't done either?
Then that's up to him to handle.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know what he's going to do.
That's his
I want
job.
him to do what he's going to do.
Okay?
Well, then that's a little iffy, I think.
Well, that's his job, not ours.
Well,
Nothing in this motion changes our original mandate.
That's correct. You're right.
I don't know about that.
so therefore, we do know what's going to happen. Is that if they choose not to be vaccinated and they choose not to be tested, then they are choosing to leave the employment of the town of Blowing Rock. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, if what David says is true, yes, but I thought we had come to the conclusion that that gentleman sitting there does the hiring and firing.
Not us.
And I'm hearing two things.
Well, I would ask Alan, so under the current policy that is in place, the choices, the mandate that's in place, everything about the mandate we talked about last time is unprecedented. I mean, this is going across, it's examples of in various places all across the country. But from a personnel standpoint, if an employee chooses to not be vaccinated and chooses not to be tested, then the policy states that they are to lose their employment. But I would still be the one that would have to authorize that or sign off on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. No one else can no one else can in the town outside of myself.
So as you know, in the last couple of days, you and I have talked about this and trying to get a little bit more guidance on the state level as to what the state has been doing. And as of last week, they put out their publication. And this would have been the Department of Human Resources, Office of State Human Resources, and what they basically have stated as their policy is that workers who willfully do not provide vaccine verification or weekly test results will be subject to disciplinary action. That's fairly vague. And I'm not suggesting that you do this in this case, but what you could say to your manager is they're subject to disciplinary action. And we're going to leave it up to you as the manager to determine what that disciplinary action should be.
There's another sentence there that the disciplinary action can include dismissal.
Well, that's what our personnel policy says.
Right. So,
as we've discussed about this before, there's not, we're seeing this happen in real time in terms of how employers are dealing with this. And you cited some examples tonight, and we're seeing that it's happening in real time on government, state level, other states, other cities. I think it's as David's already alluded, you guys are setting the policy, but if you want to leave it up to the manager as to what the disciplinary action ought to be, then you can just say they'll be subject to disciplinary action per our personnel policy. So if your underlying message here is our concern is about the health, safety, and welfare of our employees, and if someone refuses to take a test, then they just need to not be on the town payroll out in the public doing their job, then he could have the discretion to just send them home without pay to think about it and try to determine, whether they want to get tested and comply and come back. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just suggesting that it's that I think different employers are responding in different ways.
I think, Alan, I appreciate that. I've employed hundreds of people through the years. And it's hard. And it's hard to terminate people under the best conditions. But I do think that we need to do what we're supposed to do, and that is delegate to our town manager and let him make the decisions accordingly. Because what might be right for me might not be right for Albert or whatever. This is his job. So,
Doug, that's going to require an amendment to your motion if you're so minded.
What amendment are you trying to make, Albert?
Well, I don't think his motion included what Alan was talking about.
You mean disciplinary action?
Yeah.
Well, I think my motion said at the end of 2 weeks it would be turned over to him.
Well,
it's just his anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we won't even say, right now, it is the town manager, Shane Fox's responsibility for managing the employees, period. That's it.
Mr. Fox, have you thought about what discipline that you would do to an employee if they're choosing not to be vaccinated and choosing not to be tested?
I would address it by saying, I'm not sure what, multiple situations may be similar. I don't know. So from a disciplinary standpoint, there's been very few cases in my career that I've had to handle the same way because they all are so different with each other. This particular policy does put into place a very finite decision to be made that doesn't currently allow for me to be able to contemplate what disciplinary action may be. I would say depending on the employee or depending on what type of feedback or negativity or refusal or maybe even the particular job that individual holds, and there's a lot of things that can be done differently depending on the particular employee and the particular issue that would be in front of me. I will say that in the last 7 days, I've had conversations, like I said, with, we'll say 18 of the 24, maybe, give or take one or two. And I say this for everyone's benefit. Not one of them came in and were angry or slamming their hand down or pointing fingers. I think they all came in a little bit shell-shocked somewhat, that I'm sure they follow along and they're aware of what had been going on, but I don't think they truly believed what could happen until it happened. And that was the impression. And that was genuine for most all of them. It was a genuine, almost gut punch type of reaction, sadness from them that now they're having to think about things they've never had to think about before. So I think as much as we may have done in the past month and put things out there, there's a number of our employees that don't necessarily follow along as much, even as the emails go out, or they don't necessarily understand or participate as much as others. And so for the ones that I had conversations with, it was a genuine sorrow that they were in that position and they were thinking about things that they never had thought about necessarily before. And some of them mentioned being on the fence, and some of them mentioned, going on and getting it because of this. Some of them just seemed to be wanting to talk and just think things out and maybe even ask for advice within that. So I say that to say, all these conversations have been different conversations in so many ways. They've all been very genuine conversations, and I think that's how our employees approach everything. Even the ones that were potentially contemplating what to do from a career standpoint, still showed up the next day, did their job, did all the things we asked them to do. So until I'm faced with that situation, until I'm sitting there with an employee that perhaps is refusing or something of that nature, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what that disciplinary action could be. It could be furlough, it could be sending them home, it could be termination if it rises to that level. I mean, it just depends on the exact situation that's in front of me. I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and necessarily say what I may be able to do in that situation.
How do you feel about protecting the 65% of the employees that have been vaccinated?
I think that goes without saying that we feel strongly about protecting all of our employees and all of our citizens. We have done so for 18 months through various measures. The vaccine's been available now since the winter time, and we have continued to encourage all employees to get the vaccination. As we've had issues come up, we've protected other employees by sending employees home or quarantining those employees. So the answer has been from day one, it's been protection of all employees and all citizens within this town.
Why do you think giving them a 2-week grace period will make a difference?
I think softening the blow was used by someone up here. I believe that it does allow some compassion there a little bit with just the finite deadline that was put within that. I think, allowing them just a little bit more time to and it may not work. I don't know that, but there may be some that are out there. And in my opinion, if it's 2 or 3 or 4 that go and get it, then that's 2 or 3 or 4 that is more than we have right now. So,
How soon do you think you can get the testing up?
well, the goal would be have it up and running by Monday. So the health department is going to require whomever that's doing the testing or observing the testing to come over either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday between 8:30 and 10 to observe them perform the test. So tomorrow's Wednesday, so Thursday would be our day that we would shoot to get the folks over there to do that. And then Friday, to me, doesn't make sense. The reason Boone picked Monday was because it's the first day of the week for most everyone. Wednesday's kind of that other first day of the week for some of our police officers, things of that nature. So we're trying to catch them on the front end, I believe, before they start their week. They're coming off days of rest or days of time off. So that's why Monday and Wednesday has been picked to do that. So obviously we won't do testing in the morning. And then by Friday, you're dealing with all employees that have been here for either 2, 3, 4, 5 days at that point. So I don't know if that makes sense either to do testing on the end of the week versus the beginning of the week.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. We have a second. Any further discussion? Albert?
I vote yea.
David?
Yeah.
Sue?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Okay. That amendment to the original motion does stand, and hope Hillary got all the notes on that one. All right. Moving right along. We're at official reports. Guys, this is not something that I'm throwing out to debate. This is food for thought. we've all been wanting a 24/7 transport, okay? First page is a quote from Watauga Medics to give us 24/7 transport. I don't want any feedback tonight. This is just strictly for you guys to look at so we can start working on ideas, okay? The first one is the quote. The second is just an idea I had on how do we fund it, okay? That's your quote. Thank you.
Can you put this on the agenda for next month so we can talk about it?
Yeah, let's see what,
Because we're not, I just heard you say we're not going to talk about it, right?
right, I just wanted to pass that out, because I don't see a reason to talk, the reason I did this is so you guys can think about it and come up with other ideas, okay?
Well, I'd like to put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay, we'll look at that, yeah. And then that's their quote. That is direct from Watauga Medics.
The 496?
Yep.
Okay.
So, just food for thought, guys. I know the numbers are probably skewed. You got it. Okay.
Skewed.
But I want to thank everybody for what you've done. I want to thank Virginia Powell for her time and her efforts. And let's hope we can get through the COVID stuff and get back to some more normalcy. I want to thank Shane for what all he's done, and our town employees for all they've done to this point and moving forward. So that's all I have. Albert?
I know you don't want any debate, but I want to know, is this palatable with the county? Because I don't want to put my brain to work and find out it's not.
No, I have not discussed it with the county. No, I have not. This is something, now the quote came from Watauga Medics. That's a firm quote. But I have not had any discussion with the county, okay? I was just throwing this out so you all could come up with ideas, okay?
Well, I'm not trying to violate your request, but
that's fine.
Do I recall a figure of $350,000 we were quoted?
And that was never in writing. But we can discuss that later on.
Did I pick that out of the air, or where did I get it?
No, I think from the conversation that Ms. Sweeting and I had, we had a number 360, 380 something.
382, wasn't it?
And this is $500,000. What happened on the way to the forum?
All right, this isn't an agenda item, so let's...
Yeah, let's just hold off.
We need to bring it up next month.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw this out because Sue had mentioned she would like to see it come up on the agenda moving forward.
When? Tonight? I just said it.
Well, you mentioned tonight, and then I said, well, I've got information for you that I was going to give you. So, and you want it on October now.
Right.
But I feel like that you all need to come up with ideas, okay?
But we can discuss that in October.
That's right. Yeah. So I just want you all to get the firm quote from Watauga Medics, from the horse's mouth. Where the county's going to go with this, I don't have a clue. Okay? All right.
We have this quote.
Thank you, Albert.
I wondered why I couldn't get those on.
David?
Yes, thank you. First, I do want to thank Mrs. Powell for her service. Governing is not easy. It especially has not been easy the last 18 months. And I appreciate her service tremendously, as I do everybody else sitting up here. I want to also thank all our employees. I have great admiration for them. And any of my comments must not be construed anything less than admiration for them. But I hold firm that my first priority is to the town and the services we provide to the town and our citizens. And I'm trying to find the best way to protect that. Also, there's nobody in public administration that I probably trust more than Shane Fox. And if we are to go the route where those decisions are in your hands, I'm very comfortable with that. That's all I have.
Thank you, David. Ms. Sweeting?
I agree with David in all those points. I do want to say that this virus doesn't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. This virus cares more about people, those with comorbid conditions, immunocompression, children, and healthy individuals. Testing has been done on babies and children and adults. No one has been injured or died from testing. The unvaccinated employees are a safety risk for those who are vaccinated. Immunocompressed is chemotherapy patients, transplants, people on dialysis, and especially children under 12 who can't be vaccinated. Research has shown the unvaccinated can affect 5 to 7 others due to this variant Delta virus. We are in a public health emergency with the COVID pandemic. The health of the public should take priority over the individual. Vaccination and masking is the way, according to the scientists, physicians, and nurses, to end this pandemic.
Thank you, Sue. Doug?
Well, I echo both responses. I wish I could speak as eloquently as David does. I love to listen to him, you know. I also think Ms. Powell, it's been like having a left arm down here for a while. And
you got
a right arm down here, you know. So,
you can hold on to Mr. Moses.
I'll trade with you anytime.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd rather be here. But I thank her for her service, and I thank this board for the decisions. And I know we have all had a very hard week. I know we've all been beat one way or another, and it's been hard, I know, on each of us in the last week. And I feel like we come here and we try our best and to make decisions that are best for this town. I don't think there's a one of us that doesn't love the town. I don't think there's a one of us that doesn't love the employees. I think that sometimes I think we get unjustly beat up for trying to do what we think is right. And I personally want to thank each of you for your service and for the decisions you do make, because I know even when we disagree, at least we disagree and still stay as friends. That's the main thing that I love to see is no matter what decisions are made, friendships should last forever. And I know we all are looking at trying to do the best that we can. I'll add one last note is that right now it looks, I think there's another stimulus package really that's coming out, and it looks like right now the school systems have nailed down all the money or trying to. I think, what is it, about $5 billion or something, and the school systems are trying to they put in a way of asking for all of it pretty much. So I don't know if any more is going to filter down to the town or to the county to be able to use for things, but right now that's the way that looks. I just want to pass that little bit on. Oh, and I do have I do have a board of directors meeting Thursday with the league. Whatever decisions and things that I find out, I'll pass on just as soon as possible.
You gonna come to the beach and tell me? I will say one quick
You want to go
thing.
down and sit next to him?
I want to say one thing. I met Virginia yesterday for the goodbye, and it was teary on her part, a little. But she said something that was really interesting to me. She said this was the hardest decision I ever made, and it was the easiest decision I ever made.
Alan? Okay. Shane?
Yes, thank you. And just when you don't think we can be faced with more difficult decisions than we are, I mean, it seems like the 18 months just is never ending. And so I echo some of these same comments. So it's been a very difficult 7 days for sure for all of us. Updates on some town functions and some town activity. The audit is coming to an end, so that's a positive note, and we expect the financial statements to be coming about very soon and submitted to the LGC by the end of October, which is the deadline. So that process was virtual this year, which sounds fun, but to the staff that's required to scan thousands and thousands of documents and answer hundreds of emails. Ms. Norman, taking on all of that load, has done a tremendous job. So I thank her publicly for the work that she's done. Trying to remember so between our last regular council meeting and now, we've met several times, so I haven't given an update since then. The school system, most notably Blowing Rock Elementary School, found themselves at the very last minute with more students than they've had previously. I was quoted approximately 60 new students had moved into the Blowing Rock District or transferred into the Blowing Rock District, and that required them to add some additional classrooms. Which was not our issue, but what was our issue, and it's been a very positive thing, was that Mr. Patrick Succo, who's the principal of Blowing Rock, called the first day of school, I believe it was, and Ms. Brown can confirm that, or maybe the second day of school, and they were overbooked on their after-school program. They're limited in how many they can have in the facility, and they needed spots for 15. We immediately jumped into action and had students here within a couple days, maybe the next day, and I apologize if I'm off a day or two, but within the same first week of school, we started our own after-school program here through the school system, allowing the school system to essentially facilitate those students, and and charging, et cetera. We are receiving the revenue from that. Each day, our Park and Rec staff walk down to the school and pick up 15 young children and bring them up to our Park and Rec facilities, including our playground. Even the pool was utilized, and when the pool was open and the weather was warmer, the feedback we've had from parents is I don't think they ever want to go back necessarily to the school system, and they like this. They like the 15 student limitation that they have here. But our Park and Rec staff flew into action like all of our staff do on a whim of a notice, and have put together just a fantastic after-school program that we continue to receive rave reviews. I've had a number of parents call me and just echo their praise. We have tutoring and homework that's being done from our Park and Rec staff, including some of our interns. So it's just a fantastic program that really wasn't even something on our radar necessarily until school started, and we were able to help out the school system. Mr. Succo himself has thanked me and thanked our staff, I know, several times personally, and just how much of a benefit it's been to them, because they essentially did not have room for some of those students. Those 15 students did not have an after-school landing spot, and that can be an extremely difficult thing for parents that work, obviously, to look for childcare. So thank you so much to our Park and Rec staff for putting that together so quickly. Landscaping, if you've been down Sunset and 321, the landscaping is really coming together there with the rock work and the planning's going in. Next step to that, when the 444 and Jenkins side is completed within the next couple of weeks, is moving out to the fire station and putting the landscaping there, flagpole, et cetera. So flagpole is included within that. So that's moving along quite well. The ARPA funds were mentioned earlier. We do plan in October probably bringing to you some of those kind of finalized details with what we're going to right now project as being those funds utilized to fund some of our PRB needs that we have out there. So be on the lookout in the October meeting for that coming forth. But that is my update for tonight. Unless you have any questions, I'll be glad to update or answer anything.
Part F gets decided this month, too.
Part F was, I apologize, so the public may not realize that. Part F was moved from the end of August to the end of September, COVID-related delay. So that decision's coming in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When?
The next 2 weeks. I believe 27th, 24th? Okay.
Are you having any
24th.
rumblings?
Doug Chapman says 24th, David says 24th. So 24th it is.
Okay.
I agree. Kudos to Ms. Brown on that, because that was great to see us jump in there and step up so quickly to do that. So.
And I should add, because I do think it's important, we did ask as a part of this that any employees that have children in the after-school program be the first priority, and we do have some, so that those children are now coming here, so they can be picked up by our employees after work. So that was the first priority. We did ask that as part of our agreeing to do that, so that's worked out real well.
I happened in there to see Thomas, and they were having a hell of a time. They were.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will go into closed session.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session